Normally, as I stand before a crowd like this, I am tempted to preach. But as I have that opportunity on the morrow, then we shall go directly to the point of why we are here today. And that is, for whatever reason, you have come to hear the story that my indentured servant has to tell. And just as an aside, before she comes, I must tell you that we do have some common kin, for my own grandfather came from France in 1640 to Maryland and served in St. Mary's County as the High Sheriff nearly 100 years ago in 1665. So it is an honor to stand before countrymen, although I am a few generations removed. But as that aside is passed now, Maggie, will you come hither? Quickly, woman. The hour is getting late. Put that down on the table. Maggie, these fine folk have come to hear your story.
A story?
Yes, I would like for you to tell them your story.
The story about when we were traveling together? And oh, didn't he fall in the creek and get all wet, and I had to take his clothes and dry and take it?
Not
or
that
maybe
one.
the time that he was preaching and the little dog came in and sat down next to him, and when he started singing, they didn't sing along with him.
Your story of coming to this land.
Oh, sir, that's a hard story to hear. These people don't want to hear that.
Maggie, no opposition. You will commence your story. Come stand here. Speak in a loud voice so the old gentleman in the back can hear. You're not starting. Maggie, none of that Irish tongue of yours. Speak the good mother tongue of England.
Yes, sir. It's not
Maggie!
I'm not saying, sir, I'm just telling them that.
I'll be listening.
What I said to you in my own beautiful tongue was good day. Health and long life to each of you. Well, my name is Maggie Delaney, and you know that already, I know. And I am servant to the master there, and you know that already also. And sure enough from Ireland. And if you don't know that by now, I'm thinking you have no more sense than a rabbit. I'm not saying, sir, I'm just telling you that. When it's true, and I am from Ireland. Born and bred there in the county of Ulster. Grown there, so I was wed to a man named Robert Delaney. And my Robbie was a good man, a fine man, a proud man. A man who took pride in the work of his hands and in his name so that he never stood ashamed before any living soul. Robbie was a farmer, and I farmed the land with him. And it's hard work when you get your living from the ground, hard on both man and beast. But isn't it true that the back must slave to feed the belly? And even though the times are hard and what man here doesn't know those, still there were the good days too. When we sit before the fire and the three shots at night and have the sweetness of it between us because of it. Now we didn't own the land we worked, sure none of us in Ireland did. All of the land was owned by the great lords, and we paid rent and a tithe to be able to live and work it. And there wasn't much left after we paid those, but there was enough. Enough to put food on the table, a roof over our heads, and enough to keep the wolf away from the door, which is all anyone needs to be contented, is it not? It wasn't all work and nothing else. For sure, Robbie and I were good Presbyterians. And there was always a wedding or a wake to be going to, the coming and the going. Fine time to be together with your friends and neighbors. 7 children I bore to Robbie in the years we were there together. But 4 of them rested in the ground, and only 3 of them were left alive to us. Callan was our oldest. He was a fine, likely lad, about 10 summers old, with a thatch of wild hair and a twinkle in his eye, just like his pa had. And Brenna was our golden child. She was a 6 or so. Hair the color of the sunset, eyes the color of a blue summer sky, and a smile that would bring the very sun up in the morning. She was her father's pride and joy. And then Colleen was to be. And even though she was only a season old, she was already the joy and the laughter of our life. We were happy there, and contented. And we had no thought of ever leaving it, especially not to be coming here to your colonies. But don't they say sometimes the most sudden changes take place on the most unlikely of days? And isn't it only the good Lord himself who knows the twist and lay of the road for us? Now Ireland is a poor country, made poorer still by England having her finger in everything that we do. But there came about, you see, a cry from the colonies for good Irishmen. And you know of that, don't you? And because there was a great cry for it, there was money to be made in it. And those that had the money began to look for more ways to lease land to grow more of it. And it started in the towns and then it grew into the countryside. And as it did that, it began to drive the rents up. Black rents, they were called. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3 times as much as what we'd ever paid before. And when it did that, it began to drive the farmers out. So it did us. You see, the day they brought the new lease to us to sign, the price they asked on it is almost twice what we'd ever paid before, more than the land itself had ever produced. And Robbie tried to argue with him and tell him that we couldn't pay that. But what do you say when you don't own your own land? When we said we couldn't pay that, weren't they all on the ground hurrying for us to get out? And they stood about at the door and in the yard while we gathered everything we could and carried it to the road. And then they burned our home behind us so we wouldn't go back. And as I stood on the road that day with my things around my feet and my children weeping at my skirts, didn't I wonder what would become of us? Or was it that the only life we ever knew? Will I not tell you all the days that followed? What with us walking and selling everything we brought along with us in order to be able to buy food. And we did that till we came to the town of Strabane, and there we stopped. Robbie had been trying to find another place to lease, which wasn't to be had. Trying to find work, which was not to be had. There we stopped because we'd sold everything we brought along with us. The food almost gone, the children weary and weeping and no place to lay our heads. And every morning Robbie and Colin would get up and they would go into the town. And they would try to find work just to earn coin to buy bread for one more day. And I would take Brenna and Colleen and go from door to door and knock and beg for a crust of bread, a bowl of milk, just enough to feed the children one more time. The people there were poor as we. They had little or nothing to spare, and we weren't the only ones that were begging. So there was many a night the children went to bed with only tears. Robbie and I were at the end of ourselves, not knowing what to do. And that was when he came back from town one day. Oh, and he's all in a grand way. He's found a man, he says, who's an agent for a ship that stopped at Derry, and it's coming to the colonies, taking on passengers. And they'll take us too, and give us food to eat, if we just but make our mark on the papers that says that we belong to another man to pay for our passage. Work for 4 years once we get here to pay that off. Work for 4 years, I see him. Belong to another man. And then what do we do? Why, Maggie, he says, we'll be free. Oh, free, says I. Free to do what? Free to starve like we've been starving over here? No, Robbie, we can stay here and do that. Ah, Maggie, he says, you don't understand. You see, the land in the colonies is free. It's free, Maggie. And a man and a woman can go and take some of that land and make a place and a home that no one can ever take away from them again. I mean, Mother always said I have a Thomas kind of thing. Because sure enough, you would know. And so I says to him, free land. Free land. Robert Lady, there's no one that gives land away for free. Who's put this stuff and nonsense into your head? Oh, Maggie, he says, it's nothing but truth. The ship's man told me himself. And he's the look on his face of a good and honest man. Oh, does he now, says I. Well, there's often the look of an angel on the devil himself.
Maggie,
Oh, I'm not saying, sir, I'm just telling you. No, Robbie, I say, Stan, no. I've no wish to leave Ireland and the things that I know. I've no wish to take my children and go across the sea to a place we don't know. No, Robbie, let's stay here. You'll find a place. We'll find it again. There has to be hope. I never forget what he says to me that day. For doesn't he look me dead in the eye? And he says, Maggie, there's hope from the ocean, but there's none from the grave. And I look down at the faces of my children standing there. Hollow-eyed, quiet, listening. And I see how their little faces are pinched and drawn with hunger. And I bowed my head. For I knew that we had to take whatever fate was holding out in our hands to us, whether I want to go or not. And so back into town we went to the ship's man, who took us straight to the magistrate. And there they drew up the indenture papers for us. Have you seen indenture papers? You know of what I speak? Well, you see, they take a piece of paper this big, and they write upon it a contract between you and the master. One at the top and one at the bottom, and then everyone signs it. The master or the ship's man signed it on one side, top and bottom. Then the magistrate signs it and makes it with a red seal that makes it legal, you see. And then on the other side, they make a place for us to make a mark, because we don't read and write. And then they take that piece of paper and they cut it in half, so that the master always has half of your papers and you have the other half. But they don't cut it straight, you see. They cut it in and out like this, so that when you pull it apart, it has great teeth that fit back together again. And they're indented. That's why it's called an indenture paper. The ship's man took his and folded them up and put them away, and then he took the bottoms and folded them up themselves and handed them to Robbie. They made one for Robbie, one for myself, one for each of the two older children that I had thought was strange. But at 6 and 10, they can do a fair amount of work, and in 4 more years, they can do that much more. When he handed them to Robbie, he says, now here, Mr. Delaney, you take these, and you keep good care of them, for they're important. Sure, I knew they were important. Didn't I know when I'd made my mark on that paper, I'd sign myself away from Ireland forever? I knew we'd never be back. And we walked out the door and into the street. But it was different. Because you see, when we walked in the door, we were our own people. When we walked out the door, we were property of someone else. That was a bitter, bitter moment. But the bitterness was made easier, because the ship's man did as he promised and gave us food and victuals, enough to see us to Derry where we needed to go. And he says, now this is the name of the ship, this is the day that she'll sail, and this is when you need to be there. But we left the next morning to walk to Derry, for we had no reason to stay there any longer. And after many days, we got to Derry, and we went straight to the docks, and there was the ship, just as they had told us. The Sally, she was called. No, what a grand ship she was. And such shouting and noise. The sailors going up and down and on and off the ship and carrying things to be taken to the colonies. There was people there, too. People that had paid the claim for their passage. They were riding on the top. They were hoping to start a new life in a better way. But see, there was people there like us, too. There was people that had made their mark on that paper. That was the only hope they had left. We showed our papers to the sailors, and they took us on the ship and pointed down into the hold, and they said, now get down in there with the other indentures and don't come back up again. And we did. We went down the ladder into the hold of that ship, into the darkness and misery that would be in the next 10 weeks. Have you ever been down in the hold like that? No, sir. You're a fine man. You rode on top, didn't you? And I tell you what it's like. You see, the hold was a room down in the belly of that ship. It was about as long as this room, wall to wall. but only as wide as two tall men laid head to head, and only this tall, so that you can't stand up, but you must always be down, crouching, or laying, or sitting if there's room. And by the time we sail, there's 100 of us in there, men and women and children, whatever things they brought along with them. There's no portholes for light. The only light is from the ladder that goes up to the deck, but we're never allowed to go up there. You see, they're afraid we'll take over the ship, or perhaps throw ourselves overboard in our misery. Every day we're given a ration to eat, a bowl of porridge and gruel, a handful of dried peas, stale ship's biscuits until the maggots and worms took them over. Meat at first until it took rancid and we had no more of that. A pint and a half of water. The children got half of that. The baby got none at all. Down at the very end of that room where the ladder was, they put 2 buckets. That was for our ways, for 100 people. And they were empty once a day. You can imagine that what's in those buckets doesn't take very long to come over the sides and begin to mix in the floor with what we're sitting in. And when it spreads across the room, it begins to bring sickness and disease and then death. And before we were at sea, even a fortnight, the very old and the very young began to die. And among them our own little Connie. You see, I knew that my milk had dried up and the porridge and gruel that we had no strength in it for her. And so when the fever came on her, she had needed the strength for will to fight it. And so she died in my arms the day after. And that was the grievous thing. But more grievous it was when the sailors came and took her little body away from me and carried it up to the deck and threw it over the side of the ship. Because, see, she wasn't buried, cradled in the arms of our homeland there by her brothers and sisters, but she was lost and alone out in the middle of that wilderness. She wasn't the only one who died. Pity more it was the mothers who came on board the ship whose little ones were still inside them, and whose time came upon them as they were there at the sea. Not one baby survived the birthing, and all of the mothers but 2 joined their little ones in the graveyard. And I tell you, fine people, that when you're down in that darkness and the blackness of that hole, and the air is so hot and stale that you can hardly breathe it, and when you do, it tastes like death. And all in the darkness, you hear the sounds of the rats chewing on the dead and alive alike. And everything inside of you, your hopes and fears, your very soul dies. And you sit there in the blackness and you wait for the end to come, however, whenever it does. But at last the end does come. And the call goes out and the lad's been sighted. And in a few days we sail up the river and into the port of Philadelphia. There we stopped. And the captain put up signs that there was indentures for sale. And they began to bring us up from below the deck and make us stand up, which was painful. And they ripped off the rags that we were wearing and poured water on us and scrubbed us with the hard ship brushes to try to get the filth off of us. And they gave us all clothes, old clothes to wear. And then they stand you in a big circle around the top of the ship and they let the buyers on to look at you. And they come by and they feel your muscles and they open your mouth to look at your teeth. They pull you out of line and make you walk back and forth to see if you're sound, just like you're a cow or a horse at the stable. Some of the men were asked if they knew a trade or a skill or could read or cipher, and for some of them it went better, but not all. Now there came on board the ship men they called soul drivers. A soul driver comes on board the ship to buy indentures, a group or a lot, but not to keep. You see, he takes them out into the countryside and sells them where they're needed at a higher price than the 12 or 15 pounds he pays for it on the ship. Robbie and I were bought by a soul driver. We'd never given any thought but that our family would all be sold together, for that was what we were told, but that was not to be. For that day, Colin and Brenna, our children, were were bought by different men and each taken away from us and off the ship. I tell you, ladies, you find babies that are mothers. It's a hard thing to stand there and watch your children being taken away from you and them crying out for you. And you not being able to lift a finger to stop it, and not knowing where they're going or who they're with or how they'll be treated. But if you'll ever see them again. And I can still hear in my mind the sobbing of the women and the crying of the children as they're being taken away. Some of them are having to be carried, they're that young. And I've not seen Brenda or Carmen since that day, nor am I likely to. For you see, we found out on that horrible day that the papers that the children had marked did not own them for 4 years like ours, but hold them till they're 21. And at 6 and 10, I'll never see them again. Robbie and I were gathered together with the others that had been bought by our sole driver. Our papers were signed. And we were tied together and then led off the ship and through the town and out the other side. South, I thought we meant. And we would stop at every little town and village that we came by, and notice would be put out that indentures were for sale. And we would wait for a day or two while the farmers came in from the outer towns. Now, Robbie was bought in one of the first places that we stopped. He and a group of men, by a man who was looking for field work. But not I. Not I. And there wasn't time for us to say anything to one another or to touch in any way, and sure we wouldn't have done so in front of strangers. But there was only time for us to look at one another. And in my eyes, I know there was anguish. But in Robbie's, there was a calmness. And he nodded at me. And I know that he was saying to me, "It'll be all right, Maggie. It'll be all right." And my eyes followed him for as long as I could as they led him away. And right before I lost him, he turned to me one more time. And he gave me one of those devil grins that he had. And he nodded again. And I know he was saying, "Courage, Maggie. Courage." And then he was gone. And I tell you, I thought I could have laid down in the road right then and died. And I wished I'd never listened to that man. For I'd still be in Ireland, and I'd have my children and my husband, and things the way they should have been. But now here I was in a strange country, full of strangers, and nothing to call my own. But as the days went by, the parting grew easier to bear. And I began to look ahead to the end of the 4 years when we'd be together again, for wasn't that what I had to live for now? Well, I myself was bought a little more than a fortnight later by a man who was also looking for people for the fields. And he wasn't very happy about having to buy a woman, and an Irish one at that, but I was one of the best that was left. And so I had a new master. Now my first master was a gentleman farmer, I call him, for he had a fine little place. And he seemed to have a great deal of wealth, for he wore grand clothes and he had a fine blood horse. And a grand carriage and a house full of beautiful things, though I never saw them till the end. I heard. He seemed to have a great deal of influence, for there was always men and merchants coming from the town to visit him, and women too. Now I don't call him a kind man, nor would I call him a generous man, but he was a fair man, and a just master. As long as you did the things you were supposed to do in the time that he asked you to do, he wasn't cruel or unjust in any way. But he had a fine kind of wife, who thought much too much of herself that was proper, and had a tongue so sharp it could clip a hedge, right? Oh, I'm not saying, sir, I'm just telling him. Oh, she was a cruel and harsh woman, more than made up for the fairness of her husband, I tell you. Never having a kind word to say to any of the servants, whether we're in the field or in the house. And her poor little housemaids, don't I see them more than once, with her cheeks all red and tears in her eyes, where she's stuck for not doing her hair right, for not doing the tea right. And her poor husband, doesn't she run him in circles, needing the carriage for this, needing to go here for that, wanting money for that. woman, vain and proud. Proud as a whitewashed pig. I'm not saying, sir, I'm just telling you that.
Don't be unkind.
Well, glad I wasn't put in the house with her. But I was sent out to the field, and I spent my days much as I had done in Ireland, working the same. Except now we work from before the sun came up until when it set at night, 6 days a week, except for the Sabbath, and on that day you're set to work in a garden to grow your own food. Not no rest to take, not even a drink of water to get, unless the master tells you that you can have it. For see, I find out very quickly, you don't just sell your labor when you make a mark on that paper. You sell your body and soul to someone instead. At night we were put to sleeping in 2 sheds, one for the men and one for the women. That was to stay any temptation away from us. Was it that like netting fish with a leather? Oh, I'm not saying it, sir. I'm just telling them that. Oh, among my fellow servants, there was a group that was lazy and idle and spent too much time getting out of work than they did putting in the work itself. And I wondered who they were. But it didn't take me very long to find out that a number of them were His Majesty's 7-year passengers. And you know of what I speak, yes? No. Oh, let me tell you who they were. They were the scum and the filth from the prisons in London, sent over by the king himself, so he didn't have the care of them anymore. Oh, rogues, vagabonds, pickpockets. Oh, and among the women, strumpets no less, who brought their work and their foul diseases right along with them. Oh, they were a rough group to be sure, and not a single one of them didn't suffer from a double dose of original sin.
Now, Maggie.
Oh, I'm not saying it, sir.
I know you're just having.
Yes, sir. Well, they were a rough group, I tell you. And all they did was talk about trying to run back to England. And sure didn't even I know what would happen to them if they went back. Once you're transported by the king for 7 years, do you run back to England and they catch you a second time? This time you get to take a trot on the 3-legged mare.
English, Maggie.
You get hung. But sure, that didn't stop them from running away. And every now and then one of them would go running off. No, what a fuss there would be. The master would be in a rage, and a hunting party would go out, and ads would be put up to bring them back. And when they were brought back, they hang them from the whipping post and beat them in front of us all, so we all learn a lesson from it. The magistrate would be called, and they would sign the papers and add more years onto them for punishment, so that sometimes when they left, they had 7 years, and when they got back, they got 7 more. But that didn't stop them from running away. But you know, sometimes they never came back. And the talk around the fires at night was that we didn't know if they were dead or alive. But we heard tales. Tales of other servants that had been taken, tortured and branded and beaten to death sometimes, not a hand lifted to stop it, though there were supposed to be laws in place for that. But we didn't know that. I was there not quite 3 years. Not quite 3 years I saw my fellow servants sicken and die of fevers and diseases that have no names. And at the end of the 3rd year, the master himself became ill. And though the doctors came and went, the money was spent, they could not save him, and in a few days he died. And just a day or so after he passed away, there were men that came from the town, men in fine clothes, merchants too, to see the mistress. And they were with her for a while, and when they left, we could hear her weeping and wailing all the way out to the sheds. Now in Ireland we have a saying that dead men tell no tales, but there's plenty you can learn in the wake house. The talk of it that came out was this, that the master himself had lived a fine and mighty and generous life indeed, but he lived it on the money of other men. And now that he was dead and gone, they were here to collect it, and there was none to be had. And so everything and everyone would have to be sold in the days to come to pay the debts that he owed. Now that was no small worry for us. For you see, my master had been a just and kind man, although my life had been hard. But now I faced the selling block again and a new master, and who knew where you would go or what would happen to you? Well, the day had come for the sale. And oh, what a crowd there was! All the friends and neighbors and people for miles around, for the master was rich when they came to see his fine things. We were all sold first. And then we were put together and watched by the overseers until the masters would come and pick us up. Then they sold all the things of the plantation, and then they began to carry out the fine things from the house. And I looked over, and the widow was standing there, wringing her hands, and her children are clutching at her skirts and crying. And I'm thinking to herself, now what's she going to do tonight? She'll have no bed to put her head on and no lamp to light. But what do you suppose they do when they sell everything they can? And there's still money to be owed. But take her children one by one and put them on the block and sell them too, as indentured servants. And no amount of crying by that mother or wailing by those children stops them from being sold till they're 21. And as I look at the children standing there weeping and crying, didn't it bring back my own hard memories of my children being taken away from me and stoned? And I look over at the widow standing there crying and weeping, and for just a moment my heart was moved to pity for her. But it passed quick enough because I didn't care for the woman one whit. Or I'm not saying so, I'm just telling you that. Well, then that was done, and I began to look around for the new master to come and get me. But before I could even get that thought in my head, the men who are owed the money go to the widow. The next thing I know, she's yelling out, "No, no, no!" And they've got her by the arms and they're dragging her through the block. You see, there's still money owed, and the only thing left to sell is her. Woo! How we all laughed at that! And I know those little house servants behind me were so glad to see her put up there. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, well now, it won't be so hoity-toity for you anymore, will it, Missy? And I was glad she was being sold.
Maggie!
God's true, sir, I'm not just telling this time.
Maggie,
and I hope she
you hold your tongue.
master.
I'll give you last Sunday sermon again.
I've heard it twice. I think I could preach it better.
Maggie! Tell the story.
Well, they put her up on the block, and her wailing and crying. And I hear a man in the crowd call out, "How many years? How many years do you sell the woman for?" And the man that's holding her says, "Sir, we can sell her for up to 39 years to cover what her husband still owes." And at that moment, she stops her wailing and crying.
Right.
And when she opens her mouth again, the language that come out of that no fine lady ought to know. Woo! Vulgar words, straight talk, shocked us all into silence. And then the trumpets behind me began to snicker and laugh. And the whisper went around and came back to me, and you know what it was? That whether the master had known it or not, he'd gone and married one of those trumpets right off the streets of London. The ones that had been sent over for the planters to have a wife. Made her out to be a fine woman, and here she is no better than the rest of us. Ooh, how I did laugh at that. And I look up and down, and her friends and neighbors are still standing there with their eyes all bugged out and their mouths hanging open. And I wanted to say to them, what do you expect from a pig but a grunt?
Hey!
I'm not saying, sir, I'm just telling them. Well, there was a group of us that had been brought together, and we were tied by the hands and led out into the road by 3 overseers, for the master had gone on without us. We weren't allowed to talk to one another, so we didn't know where we were going or who had bought us. But one of the pretty young things made up to one of the overseers. By nighttime we all knew. We'd been bought by a man named Robert Fulton, who owned a very, very large plantation, about a day and a half walk away. Now, I'll not tell you much about that place, for I've tender ears in the audience. But I will tell you that when I thought that the last 3 years had been hard, it was nothing but a gentle journey to where I went now. For here it was, you see, we worked 7 days a week from long before the sun rose in the morning until after it went at night. No place to sleep but the hard ground, and many a night you were so tired that you lay down right where you were to be able to sleep. The master himself, you see, never comes to the fields. He leaves you in the hands of the overseers, who are themselves cruel and hard men. And they carry a whip about to beat you with, and they use their pleasure on any woman that they choose without any punishment. Nothing hardly to eat during the days except for what the overseer is willing to give you. Here it was that I saw men and women alike die in their labor, crushed, sometimes to be beneath the loads that they were forced to carry. Here it was that I saw some take their own lives in order to get out of the misery that they were in. Some tried to run away, but when they were caught, which they almost always were, they were brought back and hung from the whipping post, stripped and beaten from the back of their head to the sole of their feet, sometimes until they were so bloody they could not stand up any longer. And not to worry if you pass out from the pain of the whipping, sir, for they keep a bucket of salt water there to throw on you to revive you again, to make sure you feel it all. Those that grew too ill or too weak to work, well, they were put into wagons and taken out into the wilderness and dumped somewhere, I suppose, to die, so that the master had no care of them anymore. I'd never seen cruelty done like this, not from man to man. And I began to be afraid that I would never live long enough that whole year to see my Robbie again. But I'd only been there just a few weeks, when there comes a day and I'm doing my work and there's a servant next to me that I don't know. But as we work along, I feel his eyes on me over and over again, and he makes me nervous, I tell you. But he finally gets close enough to me to whisper, "Maggie Delane, don't you know me?" Oh, what a start I'd had. For I'd not had my name put together like that since leaving the ship. And I look at his face, and I don't know him. But the more I stare, the dawning comes. He's one of the young men that came over with us from Ireland down the hold of that ship, and I've not seen him since we were all sold. And I was glad to see him, and I nodded my head. And as we walked along together, and I'm glad to see him, and I'm thinking back on those days, I remember, I think he was sold with Robbie at that first place. And so I say to him real quiet, like, "Robbie, my Robbie, do you know him?" And he nodded his head. And oh, what a grand leap my heart took right out of my chest. And so I asked him again real quick, "Do you know where he is? Do you know him?" And he nodded again. But before my heart can take that second leap, he says to me, "Sure I do." And more's the pity. "Maggie, your Robbie's been dead and gone these 2 years together." And I thought I hadn't heard him right. And I grew angry at him, and I said, no, it's Robert Delaney that I'm speaking of. You're thinking of another." "No," he says, "Maggie, I was with you at that place. I was there when you caught the fever. Maggie, I helped to bear it. God rest his soul." I thought I took a blow in my chest. And sure wasn't it my heart that broke and fell out on the ground. And I thought I went deaf and dumb to the world, for I couldn't hear or see anything anymore, and the world began to spin, and down I went to the ground. And as I crumbled there in my weeping, all I could think was, "Robbie dead. Robbie dead, no. No, we only had a year, we would be together again. We were finding our own place." I don't know how long I was there, on the ground, long enough for an overseer to see me. And the first I knew of that man was the blow I took across my back, and then him pulling me to my feet and shouting in my face. And I know he wanted me to get back to work, but how could I? Wasn't everything I had to live for gone? What hope did I have now? I don't remember many of the days that followed, what with me trying to do my work, my eyes red and swollen from my weeping, and every step I take in my head is pounding. You're alone. You're alone. You're alone. You've no husband, you've no children, you've no home, you've nothing. You're alone. But one day when it was pounding like that, it came to me that all of that was true. But I did still have a home, did I not? I had a country. And that's where I needed to be. And the more I thought of that, the more the desire grew in my heart to go home. And one night when I laid myself down, my feet just picked me back up again, and I ran away. Oh, I was caught right away and brought back. But I ran away again. And I was caught again very quickly. But I ran away a third time. This time I knew where I was going. You see, I was going to find the ocean, and in the ocean I'll find a port. And in the port I'd find a ship that was going to Ireland, and I would do whatever I had to do to get back on it. And I was going home. Oh, wasn't that like sending a goose on a mission to the foxes then? I didn't even know where I was. I didn't know where the ocean was, or how to get to it. I knew more this time, though, to hide out in the daytime, to travel at night, and to steal what I needed. So I meant many, many days I was away. But I was finally caught again. Taken into the constable at the small town where I was, who had me whipped and thrown into the jail. And there I sat and waited with the other scum and the filth that was there for my master to come and get me. And as I sat there, I thought to myself, Maggie, you're not ever going home, sir. You're not ever going home. You've not got anything and you're never going home. And so I decided that when I was taken back and beaten in the way that I knew I would be beaten, that I would find a way to end my life. For I had nothing to live for anymore. But as you can see, that's not quite what happened. Because see, the master sent back my papers to the magistrate, and he said, do what you think is right in the way of punishment to this woman, and sell her for whatever coin that you can get. For I have no more time for a grieving Irish widow who can't do a day's worth of work and has run away 3 times now. And so that's what the magistrate did. The first thing he did was he took my papers, and he looked at them, and he sees that I've got 3 years added now for the first runaway, 3 years for that second runaway. And so he adds 4 years for the third one. So now instead of a year left to serve, I have a year plus 10. Then he took me out and had me whipped in the public place. 40 lashes less 1. That's the most you can give an indenture in a punishment. And when I healed enough from that, he gave me this. A neck ring, they call this, a metal collar to wear now, to show everyone I meet that I am a criminal, a runaway, and that I am someone else's property. And when I healed enough from everything, he took me to the marketplace, and there he had me sold. And I stood there all day long with the man from the jail, staring at the ground, and people would come by and they feel your muscles and they look at your teeth. But nobody bought me. But I don't blame them. This marked me out for what I was, for my shame, my crime. No one wanted to be burdened with this. And so as I stood there all day, I began to wonder what would happen to me if I wasn't sold. And I think the man from jail was worried a bit about that too, for he began to call a lower and lower price. Finally, long last in the day, I hear a gruff voice in front of me say, how much? And I raised my eyes off the ground to see the feet and leggings and clothing of a common man, a wagoner, a man who made a living by carrying goods and things from town to town and place to place. And because the jailman is afraid he'll lose the price, they bargain quickly, and our papers are signed, and I'm following a new man and a new master. And as I finally across the marketplace toward the great wagon that he has and the beast that pull it, I'm thinking to myself that maybe this man will be a kinder man, for he's a common man like myself. But when we get to the wagon, doesn't he reach into the back of it and pull out a length of rope and cut it? And he ties one end of it to the collar and the other end to the back of the wagon. And he says, now let's see you run away from me, missy. And he walked forward to the beast, gave a great shout, cracked his whip over their head, and off we went. Me following along behind the wagon. The young lads in the town, seeing me tied and helpless like that, thought it great sport to pick up handfuls of filth and rocks and throw them at me and watch me try to dodge it. And you know what that beast of a man said about that? When he saw them doing that, he threw back that great shaggy head of his and he laughed a great laugh. And he said, now be careful, boys, and don't harm the goods on the wagon. And that was all the care he took of me. And as I followed him across the town that day, I thought to myself, Maggie, For sure, if the devil's got a brother, you've been sold to him.
Maggie,
Oh, I'm not saying...
Maggie, tell them. They must understand that he is such a man.
Yes, sir. I will. This man was a hard man, a cruel man, a man with a taste for strong drink and a temper to go with it. And he lived in a little cabin out along the riverside with a shed out back for the beasts and a ring in the wall for me. He loved those beasts, called them his children, sons. They each and every one had a name and followed him around like great dogs when they were loose. Oh, he loved them all right, but why shouldn't he? Weren't they the bread and butter for his table? He carried a great whip curled up in one hand and a great stick in the other, and he would crack over the top of their heads, but he never touched them with it. You see, he was afraid they wouldn't love him anymore and not work for him. But he never worried about that with me. My name was never any more than Winch, or Hussy, or a few other names I'll not say for the ladies are present. In the back of his hand I took across my face every day the blow of the whip or the stick across my back or my legs whenever he felt like it, just because he could. This was the man now that I had to serve. To fix his meals and stand by while he ate, for he gave me only the scraps. To help him load and unload the wagon. To do anything that he asked. And always, always to follow behind, tied by the neck to that wagon like a cur dog. Now the only thing that he loved more than those beasts was a drink. And there was many a day that I spent crouched underneath the wagon outside an alehouse or a tavern while he took his pleasure inside. Now if the day had been good and the profits were plenty, he'd stay in there and drink to contentment. And when he came out, he'd only have purses for me. But if the day had been bad and the credit not enough, then he'd come out far too early and just looking for something to flay on. And guess what he had to do it with? And the next day I would have the bruises and the marks to show for it. You see, this is where my life was now. And I knew that I would never live. For the days were getting colder. We were coming into winter. And me, nothing but rags to wear and no shoes for my feet. But I didn't care. See, Robbie's dead. I have no hope anymore. And so if I die, I don't care. But there comes a day, so cold, so wet, and I'm underneath the wagon again outside the tavern, shivering and shaking. My teeth are chattering so I think if I set them together, my head would have rattled clear off. My feet were swollen and cut from the ice in the roads, from the muck and mire that I'd been through, so that I could hardly walk. The profits were bad that day. He came out far too early. And oh, when he did, he was in a killing rage. And he jerked me out from beneath the wagon and set me on my feet, slapped me across my face and said, "Now keep up." And he walked to the front and shouted at the beasts, and we moved out into the dusk. Me stumbling along behind, breaking through the ice and the mud, trying to keep up on these poor feet, catching myself on the back of the wagon when I stumbled, for I knew if I ever went down, I'd never get up again. But I missed. And I went full down, face first into that mud, dragged by the neck until he can get the wagon stopped. And when he come back to find me there on my hands and knees, struggling, trying to get up, all of that rage came out at once, and he hit me such a blow to the back that down I went face into the mud again, and the breath clean gone out of me. And I laid there. And I guess that he had no pleasure in me trying to get up again, because he began to scream and to curse and to kick and to beat. And I knew he meant to kill me then and there. And as he continued beating me as I lay there, that flame of life that's in your breast, you know, began to flicker and die down. And as it did, the strangest thing happened. I began to not feel the blows or the pain or the muck and mire and cold of the road. I could hear it. It was as though it was far, far away from me. And as I lay there, I began to think of Robbie. And all the dreams and hopes that we had had, that we'd come to this. And I felt such a sadness. But just before the blackness closed around me, I heard another voice. And then I hear shouting. And I thought perhaps St. Peter come in. But then the darkness closed in and I felt and heard no more. Now I thought I should have died. But when I opened my eyes, instead of seeing all of the beautiful wonders of heaven, instead I see a fire. And next to it a figure all in black. And I'm thinking it's not St. Peter, but the devil himself who came and said it. But the truth of it was, is this traveling minister had been passing by on the road, and when he saw the wagoner beating at something on the ground, he crossed over to see what it was. And when he saw it was a woman, he shouted at him to stop. That's what I heard. And grabbed his arm. But you see, he didn't own me. I wasn't his property. And so in order to save my life, he had to buy me from the wagoner that day. And I've traveled with him now. Now for a little over 2 years I've been with him everywhere he goes. And he's a good man. Poor preacher. But he's not. And he's a generous man. For didn't he buy me these fine clothes from a farmer that we passed? Shoes too, although I'm not allowed to wear them unless it snows. The farmer had a servant, you see, that died, but we don't know what she died of. And he's a kind man. For he's not lifted his hand not one time to me the 2 years we've been together, though I know he's been sorely tempted. But he does preach a great deal. There are some men God never meant to sing. Oh, I'm not saying, sir, I'm just telling him that. But he's a poor man, as you can tell by his clothes. And he's no need of a servant. And so he tries to sell me everywhere we travel. And I never know from day to day what new master I may be going home with. Perhaps even one of you today. But my heart has come up off the ground. And although I am not happy, I'm more contented. But sometimes of the night, when I sit before the fire and I stare into the flames, my heart and my mind take me leaning back to Ireland, and suddenly I'm there again, sitting in that hut before that peat fire. My children are at my feet, and my baby in my arms. And I look, and they're sitting next to me with the firelight dancing on his face, and his eyes all twinkle. It's Robbie. And he's smiling that devil grin at me. And it's all so real. Sometimes I feel like I can reach out and touch it. But when I do, it all disappears. And once again, I don't know. Brother King.
Maggie.
Oh, Robbie, why did you leave me here?
Maggie. Maggie, don't forget yourself to our guests.
Forgive me. I've 8 more years and a little more before the papers that hold me bound to another man are mine, and this collar comes off my neck. And the day that those papers are put into my hands, I turn my feet west toward the land of the setting sun, and here I'll come, because here the land is free. And I find me some man that don't care what I was or what I am, or what the scars I bear on my neck, but be glad to have a woman to stand beside him and make a place in a home that no one can ever take away from us. And I do that. Not for love this time, no. Not for love. I do that on the day that my eyes close in death and they bury me there beneath the sod of our own land, I be able to look into Robbie's eyes And I say to him, I did it wrong. I made it for the both of us. There's no tale left to tell, sir. I'm done. Can I go now?
Well done, Maggie. Well done.
Maybe we'll return tomorrow to talk about career.
We have a real indenture up here if you'd like to see it. It's from 1662, I believe. And it was the indenturing of a young boy that's been taken from his father and indentured to another man.
Carson, I have just one question for you. Will Maggie be at the auction this afternoon?
I do the laundry, I'm very good. I'm Irish, sure.